Okay, so welcome everybody to our Bhagavad Gita study group. Tonight we're starting chapter 2, and chapter 2 is called Sankhya Yoga, the constitution of the soul, constitution of the soul, or contents of the Gita summarized. Now this is, if not the longest chapter, one of the longest chapters of the Gita, almost twice as long as the first chapter in number of verses. So I'm a little bit aware that because it's so long and we only have the same amount of time, so we've decided that we'll go through hearing from Srila Govinda Maharaj's recitation of the chapter, but just the first 10 verses. And then we'll read it in English, and then we'll have some discussion. And then maybe from the last session's homework, and maybe some questions that people have from there also, and what we're going to hear this evening. A couple of things to just to remind everybody: please keep your cameras on and your microphones off. And also, for those who are joining us online, just to remind you that the link to the program is the same every week. So don't need to email for the link or anything. It's the same link every week. So once you've got it once, it's good for the whole thing. And so also have your Gita ready to try and follow along to Srila Gurudev's recitation of the verses, and then we're good to go. So let's begin.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivadadi Sri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Dvitiyodhyaya Shankha Yoga Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tatha Kripaya Vishtamasrupurna Kulekshyanam Visidam Tamidam Vakam Uvacha Madhusudana. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Utasta Kasmalamidam Visame Samupasitam Anadyatustamashsargam Akritti Karamarjuna Pangamasamagama Partha Naitattadjuparishyate Pudrang Hridayadorvallam Tattutishta Parantapa Arjunuvacha Kathang Bhishma Ahanga Sankhe Dronancha Madhusudana Isubhi Pratijutsami Pujar Avarisudana Guru Nahatvahi Mahanubhavan Sevo Bhaktam Bhaikama Pihaloke Hattartha Kamangstu Guru Niyaiva Punjiya Bhogani Rudhira Pradikidhan Na Chaita Dibidma Kataran no Gariyo Yadava Jaima Jadiva no Jayu Yani Bahattana Jiji Sama Devasita Pramukhe Dhatarashtra Tatpanna Doshupahata Svabhava Prichhami Tang Dharma Sangmudha Cheta Jat Sreya Shanishchitam Bruhitan Me Shishaste Hang Sadhi Mangtang Prapannam Nahi Prapashyami Mamanupadyat Jat Shokamucho Shanamindriyanam Pavatpa Bhumava Sapatanamritam Rajyam Suranam Pichadhipattam Sanjaya Uvacha Eva Mukta Hishikesam Gurakesa parantapa na jutsa iti govinda muktva tusning babhuva tamu vacha rishikesa prasanniva bharata senayorubhayor madhye visidanta vidangavacha.
Okay, so those are the first 10 verses in the Sanskrit. Everyone can, in your own time, you can hear the rest of that chapter. You should all have the link for that. I do advise everyone to hear that, because that way you'll learn how to pronounce the verses properly, and also hearing the vibration of Srila Gurudev's recitation, very purifying for all of us. So we'll begin the English translation now. You can also follow along in your books. Sanjay said, "The Supreme Lord Madhusudan then spoke to the saddened Arjuna, whose heart was filled with pity, his eyes brimming with tears. The Supreme Lord said, 'O Arjun, how has such illusion overcome you at this crucial moment? This does not befit an Aryan, and it leads not to heaven, but to infamy. O son of Kunti, give up this cowardice, for it does not befit you. O great hero, cast off this petty weakness of heart and arise for battle.' Arjun said, 'O Madhusudan, slayer of the enemy, how can I counterattack, shooting arrows at venerable Bhishma and my teacher Drona, who are worthy of my worship? It is better to live in this world and beg without taking the lives of our noble elders and teachers. Otherwise, by killing them, we shall remain in this world only to enjoy their wealth and possessions, tainted with their blood. I cannot understand which will be better, victory or defeat. For if we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, who now stand before us on the battlefield, we shall not wish to live. Now I am bewildered. What is my real duty? I am losing heart and distraught. So please tell me clearly, what is the best course of action to take? I am your surrendered disciple. Please instruct me. Even if we gain an unrivaled, flourishing kingdom on earth and sovereignty over heaven, I see nothing to dispel my debilitating grief." Sanjay said, "Thus the valiant, vigilant Arjun spoke to Krishna, who is Rishikesh, the lord of the senses of all beings. Then he declared, 'Govinda, I will not fight,' and fell silent. O Bharat, there amidst the armies, Sri Rishikesh, smiling, spoke thus to the grief-stricken Arjuna. The Lord said, 'O Arjuna, you are lamenting for that which is unworthy of grief, yet speaking words of wisdom. The wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Never was there a time when you, I, or all these kings did not exist. Just as we exist in the present, so have we existed in the past, and shall continue to exist in the future. As the living being passes through the bodily changes of childhood, youth, and old age, it similarly attains another body at death. The wise are not deluded by this. O son of Kunti, the engagement of the senses with their objects produces the sensations of cold, heat, pleasure, and pain. But these effects are temporary. They come and go. Therefore, O Bharat, you must endure them. O noblest of men, the wise man who is equiposed in pleasure and pain and undisturbed by sense experience is alone qualified for immortality. Of the asat, destructible object, such as the mutable body and associated phenomena, there is no eternal existence. Of the sat, eternal object, the soul, there is no destruction or change. The nature of each has been realized by the seers of the truth. Know that the soul by which the entire body is pervaded is indestructible. No one can destroy the imperishable soul. The soul is said to be eternal, indestructible, and immeasurable. Only these physical bodies are subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O Bharat. Those who think the living being slays, and those who think it is slain, are ignorant of the true nature of the soul, for the soul neither slays nor is slain. The soul is neither born nor dies. It has neither been nor will it be created, because it is unborn and eternal. It is ever youthful, yet ancient. It is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. O Partha, knowing the soul to be indestructible, eternal, birthless, and immutable, how can a person kill or cause anyone to be killed? As a person adopts new garments, discarding those that are old and worn, similarly the soul continues to adopt new bodies, leaving those that are old and useless. Weapons cannot pierce the soul, and fire cannot burn it. Water cannot wet it, and air cannot dry it. It is said that the soul is indivisible and cannot be burned, moistened, or dried. It is eternal. It reaches all planes, yet remains still, immovable, and ever present. It is imperceptible, inconceivable, and untransformable by the sixfold transformations. Therefore, knowing the nature of the soul as such, there is no reason to lament for it. Birth, those six transformations are birth, existence, growth, maturity, diminution, and destruction. And, O best of warriors, even if you think that the soul is perpetually subject to birth and death, you still have no reason to lament. For one who is born, death is certain, and for one who dies, he must be reborn to undergo the reactions of his past actions. Therefore, you should not lament over the inevitable. O Bharat, when all living beings are unmanifest before birth, manifest between birth and death, and again unmanifest at death, why lament for them? Some see the soul as astonishing, some describe it as astonishing, some hear of it as astonishing, while others, though hearing about it, know nothing of it. O Bharat, the soul dwelling within the bodies of all living beings is eternal and cannot be slain. Therefore, you need lament for no one. Moreover, considering your natural duty, you have no reason to waver, since there is no action more auspicious for a warrior than a battle for justice. O Partha, only the most fortunate warriors are blessed with the opportunity of such a battle, which has come to you like an open door to heaven. This verse has a commentary by Srila Bhakti Rakshita Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. One's natural duty or swadharma is of two types, relative or absolute, according to the soul's state of either material bondage or liberation, respectively. In the liberated state, the natural function of the soul is purely spiritual devotional service for the transcendental pleasure of the Supreme Lord alone. But in the state of material bondage, a person's natural duty possesses mundane attributes. The conditioned soul accepts various births throughout the 8,400,000 species of life according to his actions, until, by the influence of piety, he obtains a human birth. Then, according to his nature, he may adopt a position and prescribe duty in God-centered socio-religious system, or Daiva Varnashram, which helps one attain the natural duty of the liberated state. In this respect, the natural duty of the liberated soul is somewhat covered by the relativity of the material world, yet within the God-centered socio-religious system, it is nonetheless considered a person's natural duty, as, for example, smoke-covered fire is still considered fire, despite its covering. Continuing the verses. But if you choose not to fight this battle for justice, your religious principles will be lost, fame will desert you, and sin will overcome you. People will speak of your infamy for all time to come, and for the renowned, infamy is worse than death. The great warriors who highly honor you will ridicule you, considering that you were afraid to fight. Your enemies will mock you. What could be more painful? O son of Kunti, if you are killed, you will attain heaven, and if you are victorious, you will enjoy your life on earth. Therefore, being confident of your success, arise for battle. Considering pleasure and pain, gain and loss, and victory and defeat to be one and the same, fight. No sin will be incurred by you. I have revealed to you this knowledge, buddhi, of the soul. Now hear from me how to act in this knowledge, bhakti yoga, through which you will be able to free yourself from the bondage of action. And the commentary, which is actually from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it will be revealed that buddhi yoga, the yoga of wisdom, is a singular path. When buddhi yoga is seen to be limited by the ideal of action, it is known as karma yoga. When it extends beyond action up to the peak of knowledge, it is known as jnana yoga or sankhya yoga. And when transcending the limitations of both action and knowledge, it touches bhakti or devotion. It is then known as bhakti yoga or perfectly pure and complete buddhi yoga. Continuing the verse. On this path there can be no loss and no harm. The slightest practice of such a spiritual ideal saves one from the greatest fear. Srila Maharaj's commentary. Mahabhai, this is the word used in the verse, the greatest fear is generally considered to be the fear of repeated birth and death in this world. But Mahabhai also refers to Sayuja Mukti, the liberation of merging into the impersonal, non-differentiated consciousness of Brahmaloka Biraja, or a kind of impersonal samadhi. Renunciation alone leads to Sayuja Mukti, the cessation of birth and death, but not to a life in the positive plane. It takes one to a permanent burial in Brahmaloka. The demon of mukti will devour one wholesale, and therefore it is even more dangerous than this ordinary life of action and reaction. Mukti means a strike in the organic system, so it must be avoided. For example, to either ignore duties in a factory or to declare a strike by cessation of duties are both abnormal. Bhukti, exploitation, and mukti, renunciation, are both fearsome ghosts. Therefore, here, Mahabhai means the great apprehension of falling prey to both the ghost of exploitation leading to birth and death, as well as the ghost of committing suicide by merging into the impersonalism of incarceration in Brahmaloka, fear of both Bhogabhumi, the land of exploitation, and Tyagabhumi, the plain of renunciation. It is stated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bhukti Mukti Spriha Jabat Pischachi Riddhi Vartate, Tavad Bhakti Sukhash Yatra Katam Abhyudayo Bhavet. The ecstasy of devotion to Krishna will never appear in the heart that is haunted by the ghosts of exploitation and renunciation. Anya bilasita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. The highest devotion is that which is cultivated for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Krishna, with no desire except to serve him, and divested of all external attempts, such as worldly action, knowledge in search of the impersonal absolute, or the meditational attempt to become one with God. Only the Supreme Lord is Abai, beyond apprehension. Therefore, nothing but participation in his service can free one from the ghosts of exploitation and renunciation, bhukti and mukti. If we subtract bhukti and mukti, then only positive bhakti, devotion, is the remainder. Therefore, without devotion, everything is mahabhai, or great danger. Continuing the verses. O descendant of the Kuru dynasty, resolute intelligence dedicated to me is one-pointed. I am its only objective, but irresolute intelligence is splayed by endless desires for mundane enjoyment. O Partha, that's another name of Arjuna, unwise persons not knowing that the chief directive of the Vedas is the attainment of the supreme truth, are fond of interpreting the fleeting, enchanting words of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas as ultimate. Their hearts are filled with desires, and their goal is heaven. They advocate the many sacrifices and rituals that yield wealth, worldly pleasures, and high birth. Thus attached to enjoyment and opulence, deluded by these flowery words of the Vedas, they do not attain the resolve to dedicate themselves to the Supreme Lord. O Arjuna, the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature by accommodating fruitive action and liberation as an allowance and incentive for persons who are ignorant of the true objective of the Vedas. But you, Arjuna, give up duality and all pursuits for gain and preservation. Stand ever in the plane of truth, and by the yoga of wisdom, transcend the modes of nature. The objective of the Vedas is transcendental, without fruitive action or liberation. O Arjuna, follow the transcendental path of devotion to the Lord, as taught by the Vedas. As all the purposes served by several ponds can be served better by a large lake, similarly, the fruits of worshipping the various gods by their respective Vedic prayers are surpassed by serving me, the knower of Brahma, who thus knows the purport of the Vedas, fulfills all life's objectives. Your right is to your work, but never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action, nor inclined to give up action. O Dhananjaya, Arjuna's name, give up the ego that you are the doer, and be equiposed in success and failure. Thus stand firm in the plane of yoga, and do your prescribed duties. Such a state of balance is indeed known as yoga. O Dhananjaya, fruitive action is far inferior to this yoga of wisdom. Those motivated by the fruits of their actions are misers. Therefore, seek refuge in the selfless wisdom of equanimity. The wise person abstains from both good and bad actions in this world. Engage thus in yoga, as yoga is the art of all works. The wise are enlightened by giving up the fruits of their actions, and thus attaining liberation from the bondage of birth. They reach the plane beyond all suffering. When your intelligence fully emerges from the dense forest of illusion, you will be indifferent to all that has been heard or is yet to be heard. You shall attain perfect yoga or pure devotion when your intelligence, undisturbed by the apparent contradictions of the Vedas, abides in the Lord. Arjuna said, O Keshava, what are the characteristics of the person of firmly established wisdom who is fully absorbed in consciousness of the Supreme, Samadhi? How does such a man of steady mind speak, be, and act in this world? The Supreme Lord said, O Partha, one who rejects all desires that enter the mind and remains self-satisfied within is known as a person whose wisdom is firmly established. One who is undisturbed by sorrow, whose hankering for pleasure has gone, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as a silent sage of steady mind. One who is not attached to anything in this world, who neither enjoys nor resents auspiciousness or inauspiciousness, his wisdom is firmly established. When one's senses are controlled and totally withdrawn from their objects, like the limbs of the tortoise withdrawn in its shell, his wisdom is firmly established. The embodied being may renounce the sense objects, but the taste for them remains. But that too vanishes for the man of wisdom by his vision of the Supreme. And yet, O son of Kunti, the turbulent senses can forcibly plunder the mind of even the wise person striving for liberation. Devoted to me, the bhakti yogi brings his senses under proper control. Firmly established is the wisdom of one whose senses are controlled. But one whose thoughts dwell on the objects of the senses becomes attached to them. From attachment, desire is born, and from desire, anger arises. Anger gives rise to delusion, and the power of delusion causes forgetfulness. Forgetfulness destroys the intelligence, and when the intelligence is lost, one loses all. But the integrated person who can control his mind at will, and who, free from attraction and repulsion, accepts his worldly necessities through his controlled senses, attains tranquility. When one attains a peaceful heart, all his sorrows are dispelled. The tranquil person's wisdom swiftly becomes steadfast. A person bereft of self-control can have neither wisdom nor meditation. Without meditation, there is no peace, and without peace, where is the hope for happiness? As a boat on the ocean is thrown off course by an unfavorable wind, similarly, the wisdom of a person lacking self-control is carried away by even one of the roaming senses that the mind might follow. Therefore, O subduer of the enemy, one whose senses are fully withdrawn from their objects is a person of firmly established wisdom. That which is day for the self-controlled sage is night for all beings, and that which is day for all beings is night for the sage who sees. The living beings absorbed in mundane life are asleep to the spiritual joy of the realized souls, who remains indifferent to their quest for the pleasures of the senses, devoid of spiritual joy. As the ocean remains full and unchanged, though many rivers and streams enter into it, the person of firmly established wisdom attains peace despite all desires entering him. But a person who nurtures desires cannot know peace. Only a person who lives his life, abandoning all desires, hankering, ego, and possessiveness, can know real peace. O Partha, this is realization of the Absolute, attaining which a person is freed from the delusion of mundane existence. Even at the time of death, only a momentary attainment of this state leads one to the divine abode. End of chapter 2, the constitution of the soul, from the conversation of Sri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge, in the Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses.
Try.
All right. So the summary of this chapter then is: seeing Arjuna dispirited and dejected, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna encouraged him, saying that his despondency was due to his over-attachment to his kith and kin, elders and preceptors. Understanding this, he should give up his weakness of heart and rise to the occasion. Helpless and bewildered, Arjuna surrenders himself fully at the feet of the Lord and prays for enlightenment as to his duty at this critical juncture. The Lord, being compassionate to his friend, advises him to lament neither for the living or the dead, because the soul, which is immortal, is completely distinct from the perishable body. Krishna goes on to explain about the individual soul, the Jivatma, and the supersoul, Paramatma. Arjuna and all the others assembled on the battlefield are individual souls, and he is the Supreme Lord, Krishna, is the supersoul, or Paramatma. All have existed eternally and will continue to exist in the future as they have existed in the past and exist now. The Jivatma is an atomic part and parcel of the Paramatma. The duty of the Jivatma in its free state is to worship and serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna with unalloyed devotion, while the duties of the Jivatma in its bound state are prescribed in the scriptures according to his acquired nature and qualities. This system is known as Varnashram Dharma. Then, for one whose nature in this world is that of a warrior, Kshatriya, to fight for a righteous cause is the most beneficial course of action. To do one's duty selflessly is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. When all self-serving desire is eliminated and the mind is free from the bondage of the world, the soul attains Brahma Nirvana, or complete liberation in the spirit. When situated in such a state, free from mental speculation and filled with self-bliss, he is known as Stita Pragya, or having attained true serenity. Such a soul has full mastery over his senses, and when he becomes enlightened by the transcendental knowledge of his eternal relationship with the Lord, thirst to enjoy this world automatically ceases. So the useful acronym to remember this chapter is Gita, Gita. The second chapter, entitled Sankhya Yoga, the constitution of the soul, or the contents of the Gita summarized, is a succinct overview of the entire philosophy. Arjuna approaches Krishna in a mood of humility and desperation, prompting Krishna to present the most fundamental aspect of spiritual wisdom. Krishna then explains the practical application of such wisdom and concludes by delineating the symptoms of one who has fully realized such truths. In this way, Krishna summarizes the spiritual journey from beginning to end. In one sense, however, there is no end to the spiritual journey, because this is the point at which real life begins. So the first letter, G, for Guru, and this is covered in verses 1 to 10. Determined not to fight, but simultaneously torn and confused, Arjuna approaches Krishna. I'm in dire need of guidance, he humbly submits. Please enlighten me so I can mitigate my miserable condition. Through Arjuna's example, we learn the first fundamental step in spirituality. One must approach a guru who comes in an authentic lineage of teachers and who has mastered the spiritual art. Most things in life require guidance and instruction under a qualified teacher, and the spiritual discipline is no different. One may argue that everything they require for their spirituality is contained within, and while this may be true, we still require help to awaken that pure inner consciousness. As the saying goes, one who accepts himself as a guru accepts a fool for a disciple. The second letter, I, is for identity. So verses 11 to 30. Krishna begins by teaching Arjuna the most fundamental understanding of spiritual life. As the driver operates a car, or as the bird lives in a cage, we, the spirit soul, are similarly utilizing his body. Although living within the body, we are simultaneously different from it, temporarily operating it to perform activities, fulfill our desires, and interact with the world around us. Until we realize our true identity as spirit soul, we undergo the process of reincarnation, accepting unnatural material bodies and the subsequent sufferings and distresses of life in this material world. This is the first teaching that the Guru imparts, knowledge of who we really are. While it may seem elementary and basic, such wisdom has seldom been understood and truly realized. This answer to the eternal question of who am I can set the soul free. It is an answer that is worth hearing again and again. The third letter, T, two duties, verses 31 to 53. One may then ask how such knowledge practically affects our day-to-day life in the real world. Krishna addresses this by delineating the two essential duties of the jiva soul. Dharma loosely translates as duty, but in a deeper sense refers to the intrinsic characteristics and qualities of something that cannot be avoided, neglected, or negated under any circumstance. Firstly, the soul has a swadharma, a worldly duty, which consists of responsibilities towards family, friends, and society. Secondly, the soul has a sanatan dharma, an eternal spiritual duty, excuse me, which comprises of one's relationship with God, nature, and all spirit souls. One must execute such dharmas side by side. Many individuals neglect their sanatan dharma, becoming too preoccupied with their swadharma. On the other extreme, individuals can prematurely reject their swadharma and falsely try to absorb themselves in sanatan dharma. The most progressive path is to be fully alert to both duties, and in doing so, lead a happy and balanced material and spiritual life. The last letter, A, for Atmarama, verses 54 to 72. What is the result for someone who performs such duties with determination and enthusiasm? Such a person becomes an Atmarama, spiritually realized soul, who finds pleasure in the self. Krishna explains how the Atmarama is unaffected by happiness or distress, gain or loss, honor or dishonor. Transcending the dualities of this world, such a spiritualist rids himself of qualities such as fear, attachment, and anger, and remains absorbed in spiritual delight and transcendental consciousness. So this is the summary and the acronyms for this chapter, which we'll send to everybody after this evening's class. So what time is it? Not too bad. 7:15. So we have time for some questions, if anyone has some questions.
Homework as well.
Yeah, and also if that from the last session's homework, any questions from there also we can try and address. Ishwaranand Prabhu.
Can you explain Swadharma?
Swadharma means duties in the world. So, as opposed to our eternal duty, or Sanatan Dharma, or Jaiva Dharma, Swadharma means according to your acquired nature in this material world. So we have, over many, many births, acquired a particular nature, and that's culminated in this life. And most people identify themselves with that. They think, according to their body. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm English, I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm this, I'm that. My politics are this, my religion is that, all of these things that we identify as being us. But actually, they're not really us. They're just coverings that we've attained from this material world, which have attached themselves to us, and we falsely think that's who we are. So, you hear that a lot. People say, oh, I'm too fixed in my ways. I can't change who I am, or you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and all these kind of ideas. So, but that's actually not true. It's just conditioning. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes those things as mental mushrooms, because mushrooms, they grow on the surface of the earth. They have no roots. They're not rooted to the earth. So where they grow, if you throw a bucket of water, it'll just wash them away. So similarly, those things that have attached themselves or covered our actual self, which is, you can say, in a dormant state. Our real self is in a dormant state right now. And acting on top of that are all of the conglomeration of misconception, prejudice, and conditioning from this material world. So you can't deny that. You can't just brush that off. So therefore, in the Veda, there's the system is called Varnashram Dharma. So that means according to your nature, your acquired nature, you'll be suited to a particular duties in this material world. So that means, broadly speaking, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So the 4 divisions means Brahmin means intellectual or teacher, like that. Then Kshatriya means warrior or administrator. Vaishya means banker or farmer or trader, and Shudra means laborer. So all of us will broadly fit into one of those categories, and according to that, there are particular prescribed duties that you need to do in this world. Generally in Hinduism, they call that the caste system, but the caste system is determined by birth, but not by nature. So it's a perverted version of Varnashram. The real Varnashram means according to your nature, not according to your birth. So in previous ages, if you were a Brahmin, then your children would be Brahmins. But in this age, it's told everybody is born less than a Shudra. So how your Swadharma manifests within you is according to your own qualities rather than your birth, you can say. So everyone fits into that, and this system is not just unique to India. Here in the West, we had a similar system which was known as the feudal system. So people would broadly fall into those kind of categories, and of course it is a broad brush. There's obviously more than 4 divisions of people in the world, but broadly they fit into one of those 4. So that those duties, according to that, is called Swadharma. So that means that you can say, the saying, you've made your bed, now you have to lie in it. So according to our proclivity in life, we follow a particular path, and according to that, there are various rules and regulations or expectations from the world for us to act in a particular way. So that we can say is your Swadharma.
So is Swadharma and Varnashram Dharma the same?
Yes, broadly speaking, yes, Varnashram Dharma, but it's an organized system in which the Swadharma is, you can say, given purpose. So, of course, we don't follow Varnashram anymore. It's like doesn't really exist, the system of Varnashram. But according to our philosophy, we try for, it's called Daiva Varnashram, rather than ordinary Varnashram, Daiva Varnashram, which means God-centered Varnashram. So those divisions may be there, but they're all centered around service to God. In that way, that can be established. Your Swadharma can be established through that system. But now we don't have that. And when Lord Chaitanya was asked by Ramananda, or he asked Ramananda Rai to tell me what is devotion to Krishna, what is that actually? And his first reply was, someone who follows Varnashram perfectly for the satisfaction of Vishnu. And Mahaprabhu rejected that, said, no, that's superficial. You have to go deeper than that. So it's not that Mahaprabhu came to reintroduce Varnashram or something like that. It's a social system that helps society, but that would ever be reestablished in the world is very unlikely in today's. So more important than that is from wherever we are to come to the service of Krishna and try to use our talents and proclivities and all of those things to dovetail those for Krishna's service. So rather than establishing some kind of political or social system or advocating that, whatever we have, we try and use that in Krishna's service. Because at the end of the Gita, in the last chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parityajya. So Sarva Dharma means all of your dharmas, Varnashram Dharma or any dharma. Just forget that now and just surrender to me. And if you do that, you'll come to me. So don't worry that if someone may say you're neglecting your duty in this world, and there may be some reaction to that. Don't worry for that. I will protect you. Have no fear. If you surrender to me. But surrender to Krishna means not running away from your duties in the world, but rather running to Krishna. Not running away from the world, running to Krishna. And then everything else will naturally fall into place if we surrender to Krishna. So this is the real meaning of the Gita. The hidden Guru Maharaj is called the hidden treasure of the Bhagavad Gita, which is devotion to Krishna, and that will give us all of the good results of Varnashram and more than that.
Thanks. Shama Priya, did you have anything?
Yes.
Shama Priya Didi, did you have a question? Dandavad all the devotees, Dandavad Devashis Prabhu. I had a question, but during this conversation, I kind of heard parts of an answer, and right now I'm just thinking that I observe several situations when people start to speculate with the like nature of the personalities, and kind of forcing people to army, for example, and explaining now you have your duties, you shouldn't avoid your duties. And it sounds a little bit the same, like in the beginning of the second chapter, you have to fight because you're a kshatriya, you shouldn't avoid the duties. And we all know and understand that Krishna speaks to his friend, but also many people who haven't read or haven't understood the Bhagavad Gita properly or completely, they are confused in maybe they don't have that goal. I have to reach the Lord. Maybe they are still on the point. Oh, who am I don't understand completely who am I, what is my nature, and what is my duty to do. And when someone shows you like, now you're a soldier, your duty to fight. And I know many people who are not sure, am I a soldier? Am I a kshatri? And it's like observation right now in my mind. What should we say to people when they are on that level, when they are not ready to understand, oh, I have to follow the Lord and do my duty there, but they are trying to find their way in kind of this world, but step by step to lead them to Gurudev or to the Lord. It's maybe complicated explanation, but I tried my best.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, it's a good question, and
Just rephrase.
so the question is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the question is, how do you understand what is your Swadharma in this world, and also how do we do our duty in this world and still try to come to Krishna, something like that, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. And maybe it's not only for me, but for helping me to introduce new people to this consciousness when they doesn't know anything about Krishna or about the Gurudev or anything.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, remember, and I did mention before, that it's told in Kali Yuga, everyone's born less than a Shudra. So that means, that you find anyone, just because somebody has some proclivity to fight doesn't mean that they're necessarily a warrior or they should be a soldier. But at the same time, people will be attracted to a particular way of life according to their swadharma, to their inner nature. So generally, if one's allowed to follow that, then it may be an inevitable thing. Yes, I think I need to be a soldier, join the army, and all of these things. So, okay, that's okay. But and there are, I know, devotees in the armed forces of everywhere. But my question is, first of all, like, for what are you fighting? Krishna is telling Arjuna here in the Gita to fight for a just cause, to fight for truth. But I would say it's very difficult in this present age to find a just cause, as most wars are all just about land, aren't they, and borders. That's what most wars are all about. We live in this land, and we want your land as well, or that the opposition want to take our land, and this is all a kind of mundane thing. It's not actually about anything of real significance. So I think it's a mistake to think about your Varna and all of these things more. That it's almost secondary. Whatever you're going to do in life to get through your life, that's okay, but try to utilize your energy for the service of the Lord. So, and this should be our, this should be the, you can say, the thrust of our preaching, is to introduce everybody to the concept of Krishna consciousness. And actually, we're not even so much talking about the Krishna of the Bhagavad Gita. We're talking about the Krishna of Vrindavan. And of course, in one sense, they're one and the same. But in that, I just mentioned that verse where Krishna says, give up your all your different dharmas and just surrender to me. Then he uses in that, when he speaks that verse, he says, Sharanam Braja. Sharanam means surrender. If by surrendering to me, you'll come to me in Braja, and Braja means Vrindavan. So Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan is all about rasa, not about varna or ashram. It is all about love and loving relations with the Lord. And this is what we should be trying to convey to other people. What you do in the world is secondary, but whatever you do, you should try to utilize your energy to awaken your inner self. So not your swadharma, but your jiva dharma, your real dharma, and your eternal dharma. Sometimes it's known as Sanatan Dharma, but Sanatan means eternal, that which is the eternal within you. Try to awaken that. And then with your connection with the Paramatma, then everything that you need to do to move and act in this world, you'll naturally, by your spiritual intuition, you'll understand what that should be. And in a real way, in a substantial way. So when Srila Sridhar Maharaj was asked, how should we preach? He said, his answer was very simple. Just tell everybody that you meet about the love and beauty of Lord Krishna. That's all we need to do. And even a child can do that. And he said, and those that are attracted by that, they'll come forward to want to know more about Krishna, because actually the Gita's all about him, all about Krishna. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, there's no other scripture in the world where the Lord so shamelessly pleads his case, where he says, I'm everything is for me, surrender to me. So he's giving himself to us through Bhagavad Gita. He's introducing himself to us and saying, this is the path to follow, path of devotion. And if you understand that, automatically you're going to come in connection with that love and beauty of Lord Krishna. And that's what everybody's striving for. Guru Maharaj said, everybody is searching after rasa. So rasa is a very difficult word to translate. There's no one word translation for rasa. Rasa means love. Rasa means taste, means essence. Rasa even means the gravy that your sabji's in. That's also called rasa, right? But what it means actually is the juice of life. The juice, that thing which we're all really searching for, that's rasa. And rasa is available in its fullness in our eternal relationship with Lord Krishna. If we can establish that relationship with Krishna, enter that plane of reality. Later on in the Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, there is a plane of life where you can destroy the whole world, kill everyone, Brahmins, cows, everything, and not suffer a murderous consequence. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, that's the plane of life that we're trying to enter into. that plane of life has nothing to do with this material world, because this material world is just coming and going. And maybe difficult for us to see that. But Krishna just explained earlier on, that which is asat, it has no real existence. And that which is sat, eternal, it has no cessation. So for those who are awake in the spiritual consciousness, then this world is like night to them. They're not affected by the coming and going and the transient pleasures and pains of this material world. Just as those who are fully awake in this plane, the spiritual reality is like night to them. They can't understand it at all. So it's night and day in a sense for those who are spiritually awakened, and we want to become awakened to the spiritual reality. And when you're awakened to that, then everything that you do will be guided by your spiritual intuition. Then you can't make any real mistake. But while we're conscious, awake in the consciousness of this material world, there's just one mistake after another. And actually, the reality is that mostly what we do is based on fear. We move with everything we do in this world is because of fear. You know, you're afraid that your boss is going to be angry with you. You're afraid, you know, if you're 5 minutes late for work, you're afraid of the consequences of that. Everything that we do in this material world, more or less, is out of fear. But Srila Maharaj says that this fear, Mahabhaya, it says in one of the verses here, this great fear, the fear of birth and death. He says this is Pashu Buddhi. Pashu Buddhi means animal consciousness. If you think that you're going to die, that's no more than the animal. Animal just lives for fear of death, just trying to survive. But a human being should be more than that. Krishna's just explained to Arjuna that you never die. The soul is immortal. You're never going to die. Only the body is going to die. And as long as you're afraid of that, then your consciousness is no better than an animal's consciousness. Human consciousness should elevate us, and therefore we should not be afraid of death or birth or anything that is coming in front of us in this material world, because we need to be established in the plane of the soul, the plane of reality. And that gradually is what Krishna's explaining to Arjuna. And this chapter is, you know, like as it's called, the contents of the Gita summarized. So it's a summary or the foundation of the whole philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. If you understand this chapter, then you can start to progress through the other chapters right to but this is the foundation. You should understand that you are spiritual by nature, you are the soul, you do not die, you cannot cause anyone else to die, you're eternal. And if you understand that, that's the basis on which you will be able to build your understanding of the teachings of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. It's very important. This chapter is extremely important, fundamental. So yeah, don't worry so much about what your swadharma is, you know. It's very difficult to define in this day and age. There's nobody that really fits into any particular category. We're all a big kind of kitchery of everything, isn't it? We're all mixed up with all kinds of things, you know. Sometimes I think I'm that, sometimes I think I'm this, sometimes, you know, whatever it may be. But really, we're not any of those things. We are the eternal servant of Krishna, and Krishna is all love, all beauty. Then Our only real duty is to him.
Our dear Devashis Didi has a question.
Oh, okay. Devashis Didi. Yes.
My dandavats to everyone. Jai to you for doing this beautiful work, Devashis Prabhu. I have this question, and it's kind of bewildering to me. And it is on page 55, and it's in the purport of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he says that in Sayuja Mukti, renunciation alone leads to Sayuja Mukti, the cessation of birth and death, but not a life in the positive plane. It takes one to a permanent burial in Brahmaloka. And the demon of Mukti will devour one wholesale, and therefore it is even more dangerous than this ordinary life of action and reaction. So it's like there's no hope. There's like a permanent burial in Brahmaloka. There's no hope for this impersonalism. And our Lord is very, very merciful. And for me to try to understand this so that I can be able to preach about it a little bit, I don't quite understand how a person cannot be helped if they are into that. They're so offensive. There's no help. There's no hope. And they are just in eternal hell. Eternal hell. It just doesn't, I don't know. I can't seem to understand it. Even in Prapanam Jivanam Ritam, you know the verse. I know the verse, but I can't memorize it or remember it. But it says like something like the personality who creates and annihilates all these worlds, he cannot take away my anarthas. So it just seems hard for me to understand a permanent burial and that there's no hope for someone of that nature. How would you preach to somebody? Because, you know, I used to be into impersonal philosophy before I came to Krishna consciousness, but it's probably not talking about that. But do you understand a little bit what I'm trying to say?
I do. And it's
Just reiterate for anyone that couldn't catch it.
okay. So yeah, so Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying in his commentary that Sayuja Mukti is like an eternal grave or a tomb, an eternal tomb of or suicide in the absolute is also referred to like that, you know. So it's really to stress how anti that is to devotion, because for all intents and purposes it's an eternal position, but only in as much as there's anything in this world is eternal. So it's not, there's, once you're established in that, it's like eternal sleep or something like that. So but ultimately from our perspective it's like eternity, but actually nothing is eternal, because everything moves, everything is always in flux. So it doesn't just mean that somebody who understands or is aiming for that there's no hope for them, because Shukadev Goswami is what the example of that. He says, you know, I was fully established in the Brahmavad conception until I heard of the Leela of Lord Krishna. I've heard of the qualities of Lord Krishna, and that attracted me away from that conception. And similarly, the Chatushan or the four Kumaras, they it says they were perfectly established in Brahma Gyan, and only by smelling the fragrance of the tulsi that were offered at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, they were attracted to that, forcibly pulled away from that conception. So we're talking about like great sages, and we're not talking about the guy who's read a few books about spiritualism and thinks that merging with God is the ultimate thing. No, we're talking about those yogis who have practiced this for, thousands of years and come to that conception and entered into this, like you can say, like the grave of Sayuja Mukti. But ultimately, because that Brahman, the Brahman plane is an impersonal vibration where the jiva soul loses his individuality. So, but ultimately, there's movement on that plane, and when that movement begins, then those jiva souls that are there, then they develop again their own individual identity, and again the whole process starts again in this material world. So yes, from our perspective, it's eternal. Their incarceration, if you like, is eternal, but only from our perspective. From the absolute perspective, nothing is ever fixed for all eternity in this material world. There's always movement again in the material world, but it may be, if you reach that stage, it's a stage of incalculable time. So from our perspective, that's eternal. But from his perspective, incalculable time is very calculable. It's a very limited thing. If we say, how many billions of years is one day of Lord Brahma, then that's incalculable to us. I mean, we can't put a figure on it, but we can't conceive of that. So it's being told like that, what Guru Maharaj is telling like that it's because it's immeasurable, it's eternal. But really, it's the warning not to go down that path. Because once you enter into that path, then, it's like forever it will dominate your destiny, as the film says. So very difficult to retrace the steps without divine mercy. But Mahaprabhu has come to give divine mercy. So, we see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prakashananda Saraswati. He was fully established in that conception. But by the grace of Mahaprabhu, he and all of his followers were converted to bhakti. So, but without mercy, without the mercy of the Lord, then we can say it's a impenetrable, incalculable, inexhaustible period of, you could say, eternal incarceration there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you. Our biggest fear is repeated birth and death.
Yeah.
This is way worse than that.
Indeed, yeah.
And,
It's something like Guru Maharaj says, when the football comes very close to the goal and then just misses it, that's considered a very great tragedy. We used to hear that at the Green Street Temple. It used to be the West Ham United football ground was just on the other side. When the football match was on, you'd hear that, thousands of it. Yeah, they missed, so a great tragedy. So I think Srila Sridhar Maharaj is just trying to make us aware of like what a great tragedy it is to aspire for that. When you come so close to the real goal, and then to be deviated to that, it's, like an eternal mistake. But we don't believe in an eternal hell. We don't believe that God would be so cruel that his created living beings, you and I, but for making a mistake, could be cast into an ocean of fire for all eternity. That's a kind of Christian conception, although I question very much that Christ ever preached something like that. Then, because God could never be so cruel to treat, his parts and parcels in such a way. I mean, maybe we do deserve a little burning now and again, but not for all eternity. To be in a fire, a lake of fire for all eternity. Well, that's not any God that I want to have anything to do with. Thank you very much. Yes.
We've got Leelavati with a question, and also in the last 10 minutes, if there's any homework
Yes.
questions.
Okay. All right, Leelavati, and then Prabhu.
Дандаваты, я по-русски скажу, коротко, потом кто-то переведет, пожалуйста. Дандаваты всем собравшимся на этот прекрасный, на это обучение. Дандаваты Девашис Прабhu. И у меня вопрос вот по варнашраме тоже. Извините, может быть, если не совсем по теме, но мы говорим, да, что мы признаем истинную варнашраму, которая вот по качествам оценивает людей, и что вот эта кастовая система, она появилась в Кали-югу. Но почему, вопрос, почему вот такие герои Махабхараты, как Карна или Экалавья, они не были признаны по своим качествам, ведь это было в том еще веке, не в Кали-югу. Спасибо.
Would one of our Russian-speaking devotees be able to translate Leelavati Didi's question, please? Priyanana or Harigopal, Prabhu?
You can't, Priya.
No,
Oh, okay.
I can try, Dandavat.
Oh, thank you, Nadia Sundari.
Yes.
That about Varanama ashram, and that we know that division on castes were happening already in Kali Yuga, but why Karna and Lilavati
Ekalavya.
they are mentioned to be in different Varnama ashrams.
Не по качествам, not by quality.
But that they are divided not by qualities. It's a complicated question, so it's hard to remember the whole question. If you can repeat by pieces again, Lilavati Didi, it will be easier.
Почему Карна или Экалавья, они не были оценены по своим качествам, а по рождению их признавали?
Why Karna and Ekalaira were not divided by their qualities, but division was made during their birth.
Okay, so yes, it's a good question. But first of all, we have to remember this was 5,000 years ago. So it was in Dwapara Yuga, not in Kali Yuga. So generally there, everybody was born from their parents in the same varna. So Karna's mother was Kunti Devi, as we know, right? So she's a princess, a Kshatriya princess. Then Karna was Kshatriya by birth, but he was adopted by Radheya, who was a chariot driver, which is considered to be Shudra. Then because his parentage was unknown, he wasn't recognized, wouldn't be recognized according to his birth, but Duryodhana recognized that he was a Kshatriya and gave him honor as that, and gave him a kingdom and titles and everything, and established him as a Kshatriya. So, or however bad or whatever the qualities of Duryodhana was, Duryodhana did recognize Karna's qualities as a Kshatriya. And Ekalavya was what's called a Nishada. Nishada means like Aborigine or jungle, like a native jungle man outside of Varnashram. So it's still in India they have, like tribal races. They called Adivasis. Generally, they call Adivasi. So he was that. He was born outside of Varnashram, and so his nature was also Kshatriya, and he asked Dronacharya to be his guru, to teach him martial arts, but Dronacharya refused because that he was born outside of Varnashram. He wasn't recognized within the Varnashram system. So Ekalavya, he went back to the jungle and he made a murti of Dronacharya, worshipped that murti every day, and practiced martial arts in front of that murti, and gained great prowess, and so much so that he was actually a greater archer than Arjuna. But when Arjuna saw how great he was, he protested to Dronacharya, "Oh, you said you would make me the greatest archer in the world, and what he can do, I cannot do. So what do you say?" Then Dronacharya asked him, how did you get so? And he told him, "I made a murti of you, worshipped that murti every day, and I learned all of the arts in this way." And Dronacharya said, "Okay, then if you accept me as your guru, then now you have to give Guru Dakshin, the payment for there's like a notional payment for the knowledge that you received. Yes. What do you require as Guru Dakshin?" And Dronacharya said, "I require your bow thumb. Your hand which you use for your bow, cut off your thumb and give that to me." And Ekalavya, without a second thought, he did that and put it at the feet of Dronacharya. That meant he could never be as great an archer as Arjuna would be, because of that like handicap, if you like. But because 5,000 years ago in Dwapara Yuga, you were recognized by your birth. Your father was a Brahmin, you're a Brahmin. Your father was a Kshatriya, you're a Kshatriya. But in Kali Yuga, that doesn't apply. But still, they could recognize. Okay. So I hope that's okay. We are actually really close now, a few minutes to 8 o'clock. So if someone, Prabhu, I had a question.
I was just going back to the previous question, where we were stuck about the soul being stuck in Brahma Loka or fire. As in our Dharma system, they say that the soul acquires the credit of doing the good thing or the bad thing. And based upon that, it travels either to the Swarga or the other lokas.
Yes.
But once the account is settled, it comes back.
Yes.
So just to let her know that soul is never stuck anywhere. Once the account is settled of good thing also, it is liberated to follow the next path of the cycle.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. No, it's not actually a question. It's a point that he's making, that that soul goes up and down according to its karma. more or less you can say that way. So, but that's why Mahaprabhu is referred to by I think Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in his prayer to Mahaprabhu. He says, "You're non-evil producing good." He refers to, or kindness, doya. He says, "You're non-evil producing kindness," and it seems like a redundant statement that that kindness could produce evil. How could it be? You know, if he says your kindness is non-evil producing, that would mean that some kindness is evil producing, right? So it seems like a redundant statement. But actually, what he means by that is that even doing good in this material world is actually produces evil, because let's say, you know, there are those who think we should only do good. That's called punya, right? You only do punya and not pap. So it means avoid sin, only do good, and therefore you'll go up. And that's okay, that's true. But that's also not considered to be, it's considered to be evil producing, because it still binds you to the material world. It means you have to be born again to enjoy the fruit of your good behavior, or your punya. So there we are. That's our alarm. So Mahaprabhu's kindness, his doya, allows us. It doesn't keep us here in this material world. Punya and pap both bind us to the material world. So we should try to aim to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and not ever return to this material world. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll send you your worksheets with the homework. I hope you all did your homework last time, and look forward to talking again next week, chapter 3, and which is about half as long as chapter 2. So we may be able to have some further discussion on these topics. But until then, thank you all very much for attending, and Jai Guru Dev, Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, all the Vaishnavas, assembled Vaishnavas, and the world of Vaishnavas that have come with us now. Jai Bhagavan Sri Krishna Arjun Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai.
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari. My obeisances to you all.
Jai Sripad Devashis Prabhu Ki Jai.